Laban is a figure best known for his involvement in the patriarchal narratives of Genesis, particularly in the life stories of Isaac's family, Jacob, and eventually Jacob's wives and children. While the Hebrew scriptures themselves provide the primary account, the interpretation and commentary that Jehovah's Witnesses present often highlight lessons about faith, honesty, family relations, and reliance on Jehovah's guidance. By piecing together these scriptural references and explanatory notes found in their literature, such as Insight on the Scriptures, the Watchtower, and other Bible study aids, we gain a fuller picture of who Laban was, what he did, and what we can learn from him. Laban was the son of Bethuel, making him a descendant of Abraham's brother Nahor. Laban lived in the region of Haran, also called Paddan-aram, in northern Mesopotamia. He is introduced in the Hebrew scriptures primarily within the context of Abraham's extended family. When Abraham's servant traveled to find a suitable wife for Isaac, he eventually encountered Laban's family. At that time, Laban was Rebekah's brother. In Genesis chapter 24, when the servant of Abraham, commonly identified as Eliezer, arrived with gifts and the remarkable sign Jehovah had provided, Laban is depicted as somewhat eager and hospitable, at least on the surface. He greeted Abraham's servant, facilitated Rebekah's departure to marry Isaac, and contributed to negotiating that marriage arrangement. From the vantage point of Jehovah's Witness commentary, one could note that while Laban welcomed Abraham's servant, the narrative already begins to give hints of Laban's character. He notices the wealth and the gold bracelets given to Rebekah and seems impressed by material prosperity. Genesis chapter 24 verses 29 to 32. Such textual nuances often lead witness publications to point out the interplay of hospitality and material interest. Laban appears again in the narrative when Isaac and Rebekah's son, Jacob, flees from Canaan to escape the wrath of his brother Esau. Jacob travels north to Haran, to the household of Laban, his maternal uncle. Initially, Laban greets Jacob warmly, calling him, "my bone and my flesh," Genesis chapter 29 verse 14. According to Jehovah's Witness literature, this warmth may have been genuine family affection. However, as the story unfolds, Laban emerges as a more complicated character, someone who is quite shrewd, cunning, and often focused on his own material gain. One of the most notable events involving Laban is the matter of Jacob's marriage to Laban's daughters. Jacob, upon meeting Rachel, Laban's younger daughter, falls deeply in love with her and agrees to serve 7 years as a shepherd for Laban in exchange for her hand in marriage. However, on the wedding night, Laban deceptively substitutes Leah, his elder daughter, in place of Rachel. When confronted the next morning by the stunned and disappointed Jacob, Laban rationalizes this deception with the local custom that the older daughter must be married off first. Witness publications and study guides might highlight Laban's cunning nature here. He manipulated family traditions and took advantage of Jacob's earnest love to secure a more favorable arrangement for himself. This not only ensnared Jacob into an additional 7 years of service but also guaranteed that both of his daughters were well settled with a prosperous nephew who was related to Abraham's line. Jehovah's Witnesses often emphasize that this account demonstrates how deceit and favoritism disrupt familial harmony and show a lack of trust in Jehovah's ability to work out matters righteously. Laban's relationship with Jacob continued for a total of 20 years, 14 years for the marriages to Leah and Rachel, and an additional 6 years during which Jacob managed Laban's flocks. Over this long period, tensions arose. Laban frequently changed Jacob's wages, reportedly 10 times. Genesis chapter 31 verses 7-41. Jacob himself later complained that Laban had been unfair, and only Jehovah's blessing made Jacob prosper. From the perspective of Jehovah's Witnesses, this narrative underscores an important lesson. Despite human attempts at deception or manipulation, those who rely on Jehovah and act faithfully will be blessed in the long run. Jacob's integrity and diligence, coupled with Jehovah's blessing, allowed him to flourish even under Laban's exploitative oversight. The account also serves as a moral caution, illustrating how over-reliance on material gain and underhandedness fails to bring lasting benefit or divine approval. Eventually, Jacob, guided by Jehovah, decided it was time to return to his homeland. He discreetly left Laban's household with his wives, children, and flocks. When Laban discovered this, he pursued Jacob, feeling that he had been wronged or at least deprived of a proper farewell. It is at this juncture that the narrative takes a particularly noteworthy turn. In Genesis chapter 31, Laban confronts Jacob, but before he can harm him, Jehovah appears to Laban in a dream, warning him not to speak good or bad to Jacob, effectively placing a divine restraint on Laban's potential actions. Jehovah's Witnesses note this divine intervention as another sign of Jehovah's protective hand over those loyal to him. Additionally, the tense encounter led to a covenant of non-aggression between Laban and Jacob. They set up a stone heap, called Gilead or Mizpah, as a witness of their agreement. Laban's final recorded words to Jacob involve an oath before God that neither party would cross the boundary stone with harmful intent. From a witness perspective, this highlights how Jehovah can safeguard his servants' interests and bring about peace, even in a situation rife with distrust. Though Laban himself does not feature prominently in the narrative after this covenant, his role in the biblical story is integral. Please share and like and please subscribe.